Hello, this is Johnny Henson, Professor Poole with Billiard University out of Goodyear, Arizona. Today I'm going to be taking you through Shane Boning's aiming system. Before we get into the aiming system, I always like to start with a disclaimer. Anytime I'm teaching an aiming system to a student in class, I always like to start with the truth, okay? Most students, when they come to class for the first time, their stroke is maybe 25 to 30% correct, if that, okay? They're doing so many flaws in their stroke, their setup, their pre-shot routine, or whatever, that they're very inconsistent. Most amateurs do not hit the center of the cue ball. So, you know, the cue ball is squirting or veering left or right on every other shot. So when you teach aiming systems to people, aiming systems work great when you have a great stroke. So, you know, Shane Boening is one of the best players in the world. This is what he uses as an aiming system. He also has one of the best strokes in the world. So when you put a really great stroke with a really great aiming system, you really got a winning combination. But if let's say that you're practicing this aiming system, it took me about 2 hours to master it, or really feel really comfortable with it, about 2 hours. But let's say that you're working on this, and let's say 2 or 3 hours into it, you're not getting the consistency that you think you should. Well, then there's a good chance it's not the aiming system. It's a better chance that you have a very poor stroke. And probably chances are you're not going to straighten out that stroke unless you seek out a professional instructor. And luckily, there's professional instructors almost everywhere. And so, you know, maybe you're not in the Phoenix area and you're somewhere else. Well, then just seek out any true professional in your area, and they'll be able to help you with your stroke. So, what we're going to do is, as I take you through this aiming system of Shane's, I'm gonna try to explain it in simple to use terms, because I really want you to get a feel for what he's trying to do. When I first watched videos on how to do this, it really didn't make a lot of sense to me. But as I started working, looking, and then practicing and tinkering with it, I realized that some of the ways that other people explain this system are not all that good, and so I'm hoping I do a much better job of explaining it to you than some of the other ones that I've seen on YouTube and other places. To start with, there's basically 5 main shots in Shane's aiming system, okay, represented by these dots. I'll explain these. These are kind of a radius around, you know, where your object ball would be. So, you know, these kind of follow a radius. Those are just the same angles, only they're straight across. So you can kind of see that when they're kind of straight across, there's some continuity for, you know, the spacing of those. Okay. Now, this right here would be your 5th shot. This is where your cue balls are going to go. So your cue ball would be here, and your object ball would be here. But to make it simple, I'm going to make these angles represent, you know, different balls, so you can kind of follow along and keep track. Okay. Okay. So this right here, this one ball going into 8, if you noticed, it's really not a straight in shot. I mean, straight in would be probably about right here. So it's not a straight in shot, but it's almost a straight in shot. You know, it's a little bit off. Okay. So I want you to think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to think of this as your ferrule. You know, the ferrule of the cue stick. Okay. So this is your ferrule that you're looking at, you know, your ferrule of your cue, okay? This would be like you're here looking forward. This would be your left edge. This would be halfway between the center of your ferrule and the outside edge. This would be the center of your ferrule. This would be halfway between the center of your ferrule and the outside edge again. and then this would be the right edge. So we'll go over it one more time. This shot here is a 1. So I would line up the center of my cue stick is going to go dead center on this ball. But I'm always going to be aiming on the edge of this object ball. Remember that. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up your ferrule, a different part of your ferrule, with the outside edge of your object ball. Okay? So let's say that you're dead center on each one of these cue balls. Each one of these represents a different cue ball position. Okay? So you're going to aim absolutely dead center on the ball. It's just you're going to line up a different portion of your ferrule with the outside edge of that object ball. Okay? So basically, like number 1 is I would line up here, okay? And I would line up the left edge of my ferrule would be touching or lined up with the edge of that object ball, okay? Now, if my ball position was at number 2, then I'm going to go halfway between the center of my ferrule, or the center of the cue stick, and the outside edge, halfway in between, okay? So that would be 2. I'm going to line up that portion of my ferrule with the outside edge of this ball, okay? Now let's say I'm position 3. Then I'm going to aim dead center on the ball, but I'm also going to be lining up the absolute dead center of my cue shaft, or my ferrule, with the outside edge of this ball. Number 4 is I'm going to line up halfway between the center of my ferrule and the outside edge on the right side. So I'm going to line up this part of my ferrule with the outside edge of this ball. And then if I'm shooting from where number 5 is, then I'm going to line up the right edge of my ferrule with the edge of the ball. So basically, there's 5 aim points on this side, and naturally, that's if I'm taking my object ball to that corner. Now, naturally, if I wanted to do this on the other side, well, no problem. Okay? Okay, does that make sense? So now we're going to cover this going to the other side. Okay? So naturally, we're going to be at 1. So you're gonna start here, and then this would be 2, this would be 3, this would be 4, and this would be 5. That means that when I'm on number 5, I'm gonna aim the left edge of my ferrule, or my cue stick, to the edge of this ball. The cue. And so it don't matter which side of the ball you're shooting. There's 5 shots on one side, there's 5 shots on another, because this ball here, it can be aimed on this side of the object ball. It can also be aimed on that side of the object ball. It's just that when you're aiming to one side or the other, it's going to change what position you are. Okay. So anyway, I hope this makes sense. Okay. Now, as you practice this, what it's going to take you a while to get used to is your different angles. When you start shooting like racks of pool using this, you're going to say, well, that's a number 1, because it's not a straight in shot, but it's close. And then maybe over a little bit further. If you're into protracting, this may be a 15. This may be 15 degrees, this may be 30 degrees, and so on. If you're into degrees, because some people do that. But what I find that's really unique about this system is how accurate it is. It's a very accurate system. The reason is you're constantly lining up on the edge of the object ball. So you're being very consistent with dead center on your cue ball and dead center on the edge of that ball. So there's 2 of your aim points that are going to be very consistent from shot to shot to shot to shot. Now, if you can line up whatever the proper portion of your ferrule that you need to line up, then it all comes together. Okay? So now we're going to switch these around. I'm going to shoot some shots for you, and then I'm going to, I'm going to line up and I'm going to show you what part of the ferrule I'm shooting, and I'm going to actually do some shots for you, and hopefully that'll just reinforce what we're learning here. Okay. Now we're going to shoot a few shots just to kind of give you a feel for it in real live. We're going to start with the left edge of the ferrule to the edge of the ball. Okay, this will be from the number 1 position. Okay, now keep track of the paper. I'm pointing to where, that's the part of your ferrule you're lining up with the edge of the ball. Okay, so you're going to scoot over, and you're going to go straight back, straight forward. Okay. Now on this one, you're going to line up the center of your ferrule to the edge of the ball. That's a 3. And now number 4 coming up, you can see you're working your way toward the right side of your ferrule. Now on this number 5, you're going to be lining up the right edge of your ferrule with basically the left edge of the object ball. Okay, all right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scoot to the other side and do the same thing, only in reverse, okay? So that would be your right side of your ferrule to the edge of the ball. And then you're going to scoot over 1 notch, okay, from the right side. And there's going to be a number 2. Now number 3, just like the number 3 on the other side, is going to be the center of your shaft to the right edge of that object ball. Right? And then number 4, you're going to scoot over 1 notch, so you're going to be halfway between the center and the left edge of your ferrule, And then now on this last shot, number 5, you're going to line up the left edge of your ferrule to the right edge of the ball. And just like that, that's all there is to it. I think you'll have a lot of fun learning this. I know why Shane's so accurate, because it's a very accurate system. Please like and subscribe and keep me motivated. And I sure do appreciate all of you being my students. And you have a nice day.